Well, look, I understand why the stock isn't moving. There's been a long history of these Facebook scandals that come along, and there's a congressional hearing, and then nothing happens, right? But I do think that we still have a couple more turns of the screw yet to come. The first is that the whistleblower is going to give an interview to 60 Minutes on Sunday. Who knows what she will say? And then the whistleblower will testify before Congress. And apparently, she brought thousands of documents with her when she left Menlo Park. So we just have to sort of wait and see what is in those documents and what the reaction is.
But play out the potential, like things that could happen here. One question, does
Sure.
Facebook totally scuttle its plans to have Instagram for kids? Another thing, are they no longer going to be targeting teen users? Are they going to lose their grip entirely on that teen demographic? What is the potential outcome here?
Sure. So, I mean, one potential outcome is that, yes, they just simply do not build that Instagram for Kids app. I think they're really committed to doing it, though, so I would be surprised. The other ramifications have to do with what their research team finds out about what the long-term use of social networks does to our mental health, does to society. They're researching all of these questions. One question is Congress going to compel them to share that with the rest of us, right? There's a lot of material here that is in the public interest that is not being shared, and I wouldn't be surprised if Congress compels Facebook at some point to release it. And then the final thing is, yesterday we already saw several members of Congress introduce or reintroduce legislation that would either compel Facebook to share more or would attempt to regulate them in various ways.
Casey, I've been racking my brain on this one, and the best thing I've come up with so far is that this means Facebook has lost the argument with Apple over, privacy protection versus data access and all it can do for you. Even if nothing else happens, stock-wise, all of that Facebook versus Apple stuff, trust us with your data, Apple's closing us off unnecessarily. I think they lose that argument with Tim Cook now. I didn't want them tracking me before. I certainly don't want them tracking me or my kids now, and I feel fine about that.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree completely. Look, on some level, I do think that there is something almost superstitious about some of our fears with regard to how these companies are using our data, right? It's not so much that there are concrete harms as much as we're just kind of worried about what might happen or how it might be affecting us in ways that we don't totally understand. Apple has a much clearer value proposition. Pay me a bunch of money for a phone, buy a few services for me, we're going to keep way less data about you. That's a much easier argument to win.
Casey, I know you've written a little bit about this episode being slightly different in that it's being originated by former insiders. I wonder how significant you think that is. And also the Oversight Council, the Oversight Board, at what point does that sort of lose its usefulness for the company to say that they really are monitoring themselves?
Well, I mean, so start with the Oversight Board. There was this sort of honestly funny moment in one of these first Wall Street Journal stories where it was revealed that Facebook had essentially been lying to the board about how it uses a program called Crosscheck, where it sort of creates a special set of content moderation guidelines for elite users. So the board is presumably very mad about that. They're going to have a meeting with Facebook coming up soon to try to sort all of that out. So who knows how that goes or how effective the board will be. But to your first point, I think this is a really big deal. So often when a company finds itself in crisis, they want to turn around and point fingers back at the press and say, oh, there the press goes again, right? Here's just a bunch of clickbait and trolls. But it's much harder to dismiss when it's your own current and former employees who are saying, we're sounding alarms internally. No one is paying attention. No one is taking us seriously. That's a much harder thing for a company like Facebook to shake off.